Let's take a look at an example using the product rule. We have two functions here, f of x equals x squared plus 2, and g of x equals 3x cubed minus 5x. And we want to find the derivative of the two functions when they're being multiplied together. So let's talk about just the product rule in general. Whenever we have two functions that are being multiplied together and we want to take the derivative of that, we're going to be taking the derivative of the first function, so in this case d dx of x. So that derivative of the first function times the second function plus we'll do the derivative of the second function, which in this case is g of x. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply that by the first function. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our example. We're going to find d dx of f of x times g of x. Alright, so we want the derivative of our first function. So the derivative of f of x. Alright, we can use our product rule here. This is going to be 2x plus 0. Right, the derivative of a constant, in that case is the 2, is going to be 0. So we're going to have f prime of x, which is the derivative of the first function, right, times the second function, which is g of x. And we're going to be adding to it, right, the derivative of g of x, so let's go find that one. G prime of x. Right, we can use the product rule here. I'm going to go ahead and multiply 3 times 3 and get 9. So the x, our exponent on that is going to be 3 minus 1, which will be a 2. And then on this next term, you can think of this as minus 5x to the first power. Right? 1 times 5 is going to give us 5. And on the x, we'll have 1 minus 1, which will be x to the 0th power. Right? X to the 0 power is really just a 1. Right? So we don't necessarily need to write that. We can just leave that as 9x squared minus 5. Right? And so we'll be taking that function and we'll be multiplying it by the first function, which was f of x. Right? So I wrote it out kind of in that standard format, and now we can go plug in each of the pieces that we have. Right? So f prime of x was the 2x, g of x was 3x cubed minus 5x. Right? We'll have our plus sign. We have g prime of x, which is 9x squared minus 5. Make sure you put this inside parentheses, right, because the whole thing there is going to be multiplied by f of x, which was x squared plus 2. Okay, and let's go ahead and simplify where we can here. Alright, we're going to distribute this 2x times each of these terms here. So this is going to give us 6x to the 4th minus 10x squared. Plus, and now when you distribute on this second set of parentheses, make sure you know you're going to have 4 terms total. Right? We've got 9x squared times x squared, which will be 9x to the 4th power. We've got 9x squared times 2, which will be a positive 18x squared. We've got negative 5 times x squared. And you've got this negative 5 times positive 2, which will give us a negative 10. Alright, and now let's go ahead and simplify. We can combine like terms. Alright, I'm looking at my x to the 4th powers. I've got 6x to the 4th and 9x to the fourth for a total of 15x to the fourth. I don't have any x cubes, but I do have a bunch of x squareds, right? A negative 10x squared, a positive 18x squared, and a minus 5x squared. Be careful when you're combining all of those. So 18 minus the 10 will give me 8, minus the other 5 will give me a positive 3 x squared. I have no x terms, but we do have the constant there at the end with the minus 10. Okay, so there's your derivative using the product rule. We have 15x to the fourth plus 3x squared minus 10.